Welcome to Builders, the podcast for leaders who want to build great company. I'm your host, Alex Snyder, strategic advisor to world-class builders. This podcast dives into the wild rides and personal transformations that come with pursuing big dreams and becoming a leader who builds incredible teams and companies. Each episode, I'm joined by a guest who helps deliver a fresh perspective designed to leave you feeling less lonely, more connected to innovative ideas, and inspired about growing your business your way. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite channel, leave us a 5-star review, and share your favorite episode with a friend. The podcast is sponsored by Alex Snyder Advisory. If you are a business leader or executive team ready to take your leadership and company to the next level with a high-performing team, we'd love to see how we can rocket fuel your growth. Check out the show notes to book your free Builders Business Booster call, where you'll receive a strategic leadership audit and 3 concrete focus areas to mature and grow your business. All right, thanks for tuning in. Let's build.
Right. Karla, thank you so much for joining me today.
We are actually both here in Playa del Carmen, so we probably should have done this together, but
I
this
know.
is easier for streaming and recording. I am so excited for today because beyond the fact that you and I always have great conversations, I think the first time we met up for coffee, we talked for 4 hours. Um, and you have an amazing irreverent sense of humor, so I think this is gonna be amazing. You also have, as one of your many entrepreneurial endeavors, the outsourcing and offshoring industry space company that you have set up, and it is something that you just can't really ignore if you run a growing business these days. So I can't wait to dig into that. But as always, I want to start off by letting you introduce yourself, take the pressure off of me. So yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. I'm super happy to be here. And yeah, we always have fun whenever we talk. So this is just another excuse to really talk and let other people in our conversations. But yeah, thanks for inviting me. Well, I'm going to tell the cliff notes of my story. So I grew up in the Philippines. I spent over 25 years there, and I started traveling in 2016. My background is actually more in traditional businesses. So I graduated at one of the best business schools in the country. I took up marketing. I taught marketing in that university. And then I started traditional businesses. I still own these businesses. I have a flower shop, which we also grew into a dealership. And we now have 13 locations all over the Philippines for that flower shop. And I also have an events company that serves corporate events. That's my background. And then when I started traveling in 2016, the first country I went to outside of the Philippines was Sydney, Australia. So it was such a culture shock for me because growing up in a developing country and then going straight to a developed country, they used to use the terms third world and first world, right? So for people who are, in my generation, those are the words we used to use. But yeah, literally going straight from like third world to first world, I was so shocked. I was culture shock. My credit card was also in a culture shock. I maxed out my credit cards. Oh my God, the rest of the world is so expensive. But it really gave me a taste of what it's like to be outside of the world that I know. And I appreciated how much I learned about the world and how much I learned about myself, and I wanted more. So after that, I was traveling a lot. I think I visited like over 20 countries in the span of 2 years after that visit to Sydney. And then I started slowly building an online business. But I still had my traditional businesses. So it was such a long span of learning how to run my businesses, even though I'm not in the office, making decisions, making SOPs, hiring people who are independent, teaching them to be independent, teaching yourself how to be independent. So I had a very long kind of self taught experience in outsourcing. And I started a VA recruitment company because when I would travel, I would go to conferences. People would be like, "Oh, you're Filipino, so can you help me find a VA?" And then I would tell them, that's not what I do. At that time, I was actually freelancing as a copywriter. And they were like, oh, but maybe you can help me. And then I did it for a few friends. And that's how I started my outsourcing company. We started out as a VA recruitment team. And then we just grew the company. And then in 2020, I was lucky enough to get uh, mid six figure investment into the business. And that's when we really grew the business. So we grew from, I would say, $2,000 a month to $1 million company in a year without spending anything on
Mm.
ads. Also, a little bit of luck, right? Because during the pandemic, that was also when people around the world became more open to remote work and outsourcing and hiring from other countries and learning that other cultures like
Yeah.
spoke English and are exposed to a
Yeah.
lot of as well.
Yeah. If I'm gonna have to work over Zoom, then like, why not try someone who's further away, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. I love what you said, and I want to keep focusing a little bit on your story, but I just want for anyone who's listening, I think that sometimes there's an underrated element of building a business, which is you need to come up with an idea and then you need to go like test the market. And then, and yeah, some businesses are 100% built that way. Obviously, a lot of tech businesses are, but even
Mhm.
tech businesses sometimes are built the way you built it, which is actually there is a need and someone is looking and asking and you develop something for them and
Yeah,
then you figure out how to take the thing you did for one or two customers and turn it into something scalable because you
yeah.
see that it could be so much bigger. And I think in a you get paid to build your business, which is like a dream.
Awesome.
Well, you want to spend the next 6 to 18 months just figuring it out with no revenue,
Yeah,
right? Someone's paying you to build this business
grow your
if you do
business.
it as a
Yeah.
service, kind of 1 to 1 or 1 to 3 or 4, and then take that solution and I want to say genericize it, obviously not too much, but make it scalable.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so I love that. And I do want to point that out if someone's listening. That is an amazing way to build business. So growing up in the Philippines, what was it like? Do you think it shaped you in any specific ways?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, especially now that I live in a very international town as Playa del Carmen, one thing that I love about this city is that everyone is from everywhere and everyone decided to be here. And for me, that's very powerful. I think that's a powerful energy, choosing where you live and where you thrive. And so that's why I always tell everyone I know in the Philippines, leave the country, move abroad, spend a little bit of time. It's okay to come back. It doesn't mean that you're abandoning your heritage or something like that. But but definitely the world's so big and it is arrogant for you to think that you have everything you need in the place where you are, right? Growing up in the Philippines, it was great because I would say the highlight of the benefit of our culture is we have an equal emphasis on ambition and hard work because everyone's poor and everyone is told to, work hard and money doesn't grow on trees. So I think there's something positive in that too. But so there's an equal emphasis on that and an equal emphasis of community and serving others. And this is why you see a lot of Filipinos, they make great nurses. We have a joke in the Philippines that our top two exports are bananas and nurses and wives, I guess. Filipinos make great wives too, guys. A lot of popcorn bros are in the Philippines, but for real, and that's another benefit of our culture. Also, personally, I think as a woman, there was an equal emphasis on ambition and achievement, but also in building a home and honoring your husband as the leader of the household and things like that.
Mm,
This is why being in outsourcing, the equal potency of the emphasis of like service and hard work, I
yeah,
think
yeah.
really places our culture in such a good spot in this industry.
That's such an interesting perspective. Thank you. So what sparked your entrepreneurial journey? I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur at this point, very successful in that you have managed to keep your endeavors going while opening new ones, which is such a dream and not always the way. A lot of people, their third or fourth
Yes.
business is successful because the first few they had to wrap it up and it quote unquote failed, which is always the building block for what's next.
Yes.
What sparked your entrepreneurial journey? What kind of made you decide that you wanted to work for yourself and eventually employ others?
Actually, it started with a heartbreak. So when I graduated college, not a romantic heartbreak, but when I graduated college, I actually graduated early. So I graduated at 19 and I had a really good college resume. I was the president of the debate team and I won a table tennis championship. And I was like, oh my gosh, everyone will be fawning all over me and everyone will be dying to hire me. And then reality hit me and no one wants to hire a teenager, really. Like the only jobs I could get were super low level jobs and rank and file. And maybe it was my arrogance also when I was young. And I'm like, what? I graduated from this like biggest business school. I have this college resume. And then on top of that, I even failed in some of the exams of my dream company, which was like Unilever, Coca-Cola, P&G.
Mm.
And then I told myself, "Oh, you know what, Carla? Maybe you just don't test well." So it was just like, okay, no one wants to hire me. I failed the exams. The only jobs I would get, I don't like them. They're not even related to what I want to do, which is business. And so I guess, out of spite and of course need, I started a business. So my first business was my flower shop. I didn't even know anything about flowers, but I just sat with myself and I thought, what is something that is overpriced, but people just accepted that it
But that's an amazing thing to
is?
even think, right? What do people just willingly overpay for?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I
Exactly.
think I think a fundamental of entrepreneurship is being resourceful, but I
Mhm,
think
mhm.
the other side is there is an element of, like, stubbornness, right? There is
Totally.
I talk about being unemployable, right? And it's not for a lack of
Yes.
skills,
Yes.
it's that you see things in different ways and you're like really drawn to pursue the thing and I think entrepreneurship is underrated. I do think that can be a great path for a lot of people who have some of the traits without having to like fully go out and do your own thing. I think there is a lot of entrepreneurship in the right companies with the right culture, but I think
Yeah.
there is that fine like I'm going
Yeah.
to figure this out and
For real.
I'm
Yeah.
not willing. I know for myself my most successful, like, times or where I've overcome the odds have
Mhm.
usually been when someone has told me that I can't do something or,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
maybe you should spend a little more time on a backup or that seems excessive or whatever. And
Right.
then it's like in that moment, it's like a little pilot light. It's like a little pilot light for
Go
my
you.
engine where I'm just like, "Oh, okay, so"
What do you know that show, How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
Barney? Challenge accepted.
Exactly, that is the perfect example. So, I'm not surprised to hear that's how things kicked off. Interesting that you started I love the way you thought about it. What is something that's overpriced, but people accept it, and there's not necessarily a cap on the market, right? Like, it's not
Mm.
overserved. But that's interesting because it's also a highly perishable, capital intensive business to start.
Yeah. Well, that's what most people think, but it actually isn't. So until now, and I've had this flower shop for, let me see, 15 years. Until now, we don't own a fridge. Most flower shops own a fridge, right? In their flower shops. We don't. So what we do is and this is my favorite part of the business. We take their payment when they take their order. And of course, we pre-schedule them. So I would say 24 hours would be the most rush. We do get rush projects on the day. Oh my God, holy shit, I forgot our anniversary. Can you please deliver something in 2 hours or else my wife will kill me? So we do get those orders. For those orders, we charge a premium because it's rush. And to be honest with you, we can buy those flowers anywhere and just change the wrap. Okay.
Yeah.
So just revealing our gig here. But yeah, it's how
You're
all
providing a
flower shops
service.
work.
You figured out how to be a service as opposed to a goods company,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah, I always say we don't sell flowers. We sell the element of surprise and thoughtfulness. It's different to buy flowers and it's different to receive flowers, especially if it's a surprise, especially if you're in an office and all your coworkers are looking at you. That is what we're selling. That feeling, we give that feeling to your wife. she will remember that forever. And you know this, you're a girl. Even we send our girlfriends flowers on their birthday, and it's
I was gonna say, I send a lot of flowers. I don't necessarily get a
right.
lot of them, but I send a lot.
Otto, are you listening? I got DM this guy. Anyway, yeah. So it's different. That's what we're selling. And so we take the payment, we pre-book the order. That morning, there's a place in the city where they basically sell all the flowers by the truck. We just buy what's needed and then we arrange it. And that's it. So what I love about that business, and this is how I think everyone should start a business, always choose a business that is payment first. So you get the payment first, and then and then you have a very low risk of not delivering it. There's so many businesses that you can do like this. Even if you flip sneakers, post the sneakers you're selling, get a down payment, tell everyone you're going to ship in 48 hours. Then you have that time, right? So
Yeah,
I think you can always get a deposit. I guess that would be the way to start a zero capital business.
I love that. That was like a very practical one-on-one. Thank you. Little
Yes.
unexpected tip for anyone. You might wanna rewind, take some notes.
Exactly.
So, proximity wasn't your first. You
Mhm.
started the flower shop, then you moved on from there. Where did you gather the skills for these businesses? Where did you cut your teeth?
Oh, yes. I always joke that what qualifies me as an operations manager is being the eldest child of an Asian family. So that's number one. And then I think I've always been the leadership type of person. Even in school, I think all throughout my elementary years, I danced and I was always the leader. Well, I don't know where those skills go. So don't invite me. Don't get ideas, girls.
I have so many ideas, but go on.
Yeah. And then I was always the leader in high school. I think I blended in the crowd. I wasn't doing any leadership things in high school. And well, subplot for that is I was also bullied for being ugly, which is I don't know why
Which
now.
is
Just kidding.
ridiculous because you're gorgeous.
And it's just a late glow up.
Kids are
But
awful.
I know, I know. And then in college, I did that leadership thing again because I did public speaking. So I guess being in leadership positions, it always slowly trained me. But of course, it still it goes back to what you mentioned, resourcefulness and practicality. I know that the only way for me to make more money while either working the same amount or working less is to be a leader. I know that for every business, your job when you're starting it is you're the salesperson. So you sell. When I was starting, when I got serious, when I got that investment, I was like, oh my gosh, this is someone else's money. I got so nervous. I worked 16 hours a day to make that happen. I think during the pandemic, Clubhouse was starting to blow up. I don't know if you guys remember
I
that. It was
remember.
like a
Yeah.
one hit wonder. I was on Clubhouse a lot, Twitter, Facebook. I was everywhere. I was doing podcasts. I was really trying so hard to make sales.
Mhm.
But after that, I slowly moved into leadership mode, right? I outsourced, delegated. It is a matter of practicality and resourcefulness. And it is really the only way.
Mm.
Either you have these leadership tasks, I mean, leadership skills, or you hire someone that has leadership skills. And this is why probably Alex, same thing with your relationship with your clients, right?
Yeah.
These founders are making you help them make leadership decisions because not everyone is born with that or has the opportunity to be good at it.
Right. Yeah, I think most people learn leadership. It's just some of us learn it really young and don't realize it, and others have to learn and shape it. And even those who learn it, there's always rough edges to polish or learning new ways to handle things or going into different environments, right? So
Mhm.
I do think it's like really a lifelong learning journey. And it's just one that I've chosen to make professional, right? But
Exactly.
I probably read as many or more leadership
Yeah.
books and attend events and right? Like even for what I do, I always say I'm never going to be banking on just the first 15 years of my career, right? I didn't stop 4 or 5 years ago learning and just that's just all I use to teach my clients, work with them, right? Like I'm constantly up leveling as well, and they get the
Yeah.
benefit of all the investment I put into that streamlined
Exactly.
into them, right? I'm curious, I don't wanna focus too much on the flower shop, but I'm so interested because so you set it up in this brilliant way, right? Which I think it's I think it's the 4-Hour Work Week actually talks about this
Oh,
model of
yeah.
like how to A/B test, how to create something online where you can get demand and then decide if you're gonna do it. And I don't know if anyone who's ever ordered on Amazon, you'll notice they don't charge you right away. They
Yeah.
charge you like in components as things are ready to ship because there are actually laws around when you can take money versus
Yeah.
deliver, etcetera. So, I love that, but you still had to establish yourself a brand and find people to buy, and you had to sell, and so were you really focused then on, "Okay, here's a system," which at first probably got more complicated as you got bigger, but at first was,
Yeah.
like, simple-ish, paid for upfront. So were you really just focused on the marketing and you had ideas on, like, where you were gonna get customers and then how you were gonna build loyalty to keep them coming back and referring?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love telling this story because I actually catfished my way into my first few sales for real.
You always have the best frame for your stories. I
Correct.
love
I
this.
got catfished my first few clients. I'm sorry to all the men, not in a romantic way,
Oh.
but this is what I did. And this is why you guys,
Disclaimer.
poverty is not a hindrance to success, but because anyone can do this, anyone can catfish their way to success. But at that time, at that time, social media wasn't a big thing. The big
Mhm.
thing was this is 2007, 2008. The big thing in the Philippines was forum. So I think you guys
Yeah.
remember how big forums are. I think Craigslist type thing. But before Craigslist became like a place for creeps and serial killers, right? This and creepy roommates. I went to this forum and I looked at all the male dominated forums and I signed with a very a male name, like Daniel or something. Basically, pretended to be a dude. And I went to the male dominated forums like the car, the sport. What else was it? Motocross, things like that. Super male. And then you go to these forums. In these forums, there are topics. For if it's a car forum, there'd be like, this is the Toyota subthread, and this is
Threads,
the
yeah.
Nissan, whatever. And there is always a general chat thread. So that's where these dudes hang out. So I would just put in the chat, you're free to talk about anything in the general chat. And so in the chat, I would just put there, oh, by the way, guys, if would put jokes like if you needed to be forgiven, I got you. And then you just Western Union the money to me. Yeah, literally, I was like a creep. So I was this dude, quote unquote, Daniel, who went on this forums, who did not even talk about cars, talk about like flowers. And then you have to Western Union the money to a female name. So it literally looked like a scam. But thank God, these guys just, yeah, some people trusted me. And some of them actually wanted my ID before they sent the Western Union money. I didn't even have a bank account, right? This is how bootleg this was. And after I think I got my first 5 clients, I had the pictures to prove it. I literally took the payment from Western Union and then I bought the flowers from like a public market. I changed the wrapping into better wrapping that I bought from the mall. And then I delivered the flowers myself using like
Oh.
public transportation. I did everything. I hustled. And it was funny because I was in college and sometimes I would be delivering the flowers in my uniform because we had uniforms. And they're like, oh, you're a child. And
Yeah.
why are you doing this? And then, yeah, so that's how it started. And then when Facebook blew up, I started like a Facebook page. And then in 2000, I think after 4 years or 3 years, after 3 years, I was able to afford to have my first downtown like office space shop.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, that is old school hustle. That's the real
Catfishing the key to success,
grit. The
guys.
catfishing was just amazing. That part's amazing. I love that. You didn't go with Carl? I mean, that was the obvious.
Yeah. And they were like, why am I sending this money to Karla? And I just told them, oh, that's my girl. I don't
Yeah.
have the time to pick up the money. So she will just,
Yeah,
it's so
exactly.
funny.
It's my girl, it's my employee.
Yeah.
Surprised you weren't saying, "Oh, I'm just a delivery person," when you were going in your uniform and
Oh,
like,
it was so funny. Yeah. And I went to a Catholic school. So they're like super confused. They were like, what
"Why
is
is a
this?
Catholic schoolgirl delivering me flowers? Who is this actually for?"
That's an OnlyFans gig right there. Catholic school girl
That's what I was
delivering
thinking.
flowers.
All right. We're gonna keep the podcast PG though, because I have so many thoughts on that. Different episode. Take 2. Um, Okay, so let's dig into outsourcing. You
Mhm.
got asked this because you're from the Philippines, which is a interesting connection
Funny.
that people are
Yeah.
making, and you did it as a favor for kind of people in your network. At what point were you like, "Yeah, this is a business"?
Yeah.
Like,
I was in conferences at that time. I attended copywriting workshops, conferences, and people would come up to me and say, "Can you help me hire a VA?" And I kept saying, I don't do that. I'm a copywriter. But they were like, "But you must know people like you. So all you need to do is introduce them to us." And I'm like, dude, it's not that easy because I need to screen them. I need to talk to them. And then some of them were made a suggestion. They were like, "But you went to this good school, right? So you can just post in the alumni board and then you'll find basically it's almost pre-screened or something like that."
yeah.
Not to be discriminatory, it's just it made things easy for me because I was an
No, that
alumni.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Like, when I hired one of my team members, I posted the posting in the, I don't know, message board
right.
for the program of someone I know that runs a, like, how to be a whatever program, and then they accept job postings. So I posted there
Yeah,
because I was like, "I want people who have been through this course
exactly.
to be the first. That is the first round of screening for this application, is, like, you either went through this course or somehow you have access to this. I don't know, maybe you're, like, amazing and a friend of the trainer. But other than that, it was like, yeah, I didn't wanna put this on 10 different things. I didn't wanna have to sift through 1,000 applications. I wanted 20 that were at a level, and then that made it really easy.
Yeah. So I was able to successfully hire really good executive assistants for three of my friends. And then they were like, thank you so much. I wasn't charging for it, I was just helping them. One of them gave me like $100 Amazon gift card, which was very nice of him, but he didn't know we didn't have Amazon in the Philippines. And so, and so I was like, oh, now I have to sell this to someone to get the money. No, but it was great. And then he said that, and so I told him, "Hey, we don't have Amazon in our country." And he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You know what? I'll just give you the cash. I'll just PayPal you." And then he said, "Have you ever thought of making this a business?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, actually, my success rate right now is 100%. And if we weren't friends, how much would you pay for this genuinely?" And I remember this. He told me $300. So that was my initial price super long time ago. We charged $297 to hire a VA for you. And that's it. And then we increased that to 597. And then after that, we started putting management in because some of the employers or clients wanted to give healthcare benefits and they didn't know how to do that. So we charged, I think, somewhere between $99 to $200 depending on a month, depending on the package that they wanted. And then when I had that investment, I realized I needed to make better offers. So I basically interviewed my clients. At that time, this was just a side business because my main business was still the events company before pandemic obviously killed that industry. But I was, I think I was making from the subscriptions of the benefits like $2,000 a month. It's just a side business. And then I interviewed these clients and I told them what would make this engagement be of better value to you. And they basically told me a lot of really useful things like, oh, if you could help me upskill my VA or monitor their development. Oh, if you could provide ongoing accent training, that would be great. My VA English is good, but I would like for it to be better. Maybe I can promote her into a client success manager. And then some of them are also like, hey, I've had this VA from you for 4 years. I want to hire a project manager or promote her, but I want her to get ready for that. What kind of certifications can you help her get or some sort of executive coaching? So now we do all of that in our business. It's more white glove and it's for people who don't outsource because they outsource.
Yeah.
Yes, it is more affordable than hiring from US or Canada locally, but they still want to provide support, healthcare, coaching, and they want to continuously upskill their team.
Yeah. So before we go deeper into this, just
Mhm.
for anyone who's listening to this and either is maybe not fully familiar with outsourcing. What is it at a high level? What do you do? And also, what's the difference between outsourcing and placements?
Right. Yeah, that's a very good question. So placements is basically recruitment. So most recruitment agencies, you pay them to search these people for you. They deploy tests. They even go as far as deploying personality tests, culture fit tests. And if you need them to know a particular software or platform, say, oh, I want them to know High Level or HubSpot or something very specific, then you can also have the recruiter include that in their search. And then they get you some people to interview, they place it, and then usually they get paid 15 to 20% of the salary of that person, the yearly salary of that person. Usually there is a rehire opportunity or benefit, like an insurance within the first 90 days if it doesn't work out. And then that's it. So we do that as part of the outsourcing solution, but that is the first part. The ongoing part is onboarding. So most placements, they don't do onboarding. It's up to you as a client. And for us, we do the onboarding part. We also provide the success metrics, so the scorecard, and an ongoing development plan based on your business goals. So if you share with us that I'm on this platform now, but when we grow, I'm going to move to this other platform, our client success manager will start developing a plan to get there so that you don't have to do it yourself. So outsourcing, so that placement is that. Outsourcing is, there's many ways to outsource really. So if you're doing this all by yourself, you are basically taking what you have in terms of templates, SOPs, and if then statement, things that you have already done and that you know are effective, and then you're giving them to someone else, someone who is overseas or not in your company. So that's outsourcing. Managed outsourcing, which is what we do, is doing that, but you have an intermediary helping you with the integration of this person in your company. So they behave like your own employee. Because this is one thing that was a pain point with some of our clients. Every time they go on Upwork and hire a freelancer, the freelancer is not integrated into the team and they don't last and they will leave the team for a slightly higher paying job. If it was 50 cents an hour, that
An
was a
hour.
they would
Yeah.
just leave you because they're not properly integrated into the culture and they have a freelancer mindset. So that's different. Doing managed outsourcing, we handle all of the integration and the ongoing development. So of your remote professional or your RP, what we call them, so that your RP grows as they grow into the role. Some of our some of our success stories are clients releasing the RP from their contract with us
Mhm.
and getting them a US visa. And it really makes me happy. Yeah, when that happens. It means they're properly integrated into the company and the client really is invested in their growth at that level, right? That is a great opportunity for people who come from my
Amazing.
yeah.
I love that. Okay. So you grew proximity from 0 to 7 figures in a year without ad spend. You said a little bit of luck, but what were the other ingredients? How did you do that?
Yeah, the company had a different name before when I had a partner, and now it's proximity. So I wanted to mention that because I people were like, "No, this was not the business. It's the same business, just has a different name." But I was, of course, the luck was there. It was good timing. It was a great trend that happened during the pandemic in my industry. And the other thing was, I would say there were two needle movers. Number one is just really great service that makes your clients tell other people about it and really focusing on the client experience, paying attention to them. So my job was to go out there and tell people what we do. And then I told my operations team, guys, your job is to focus on the client. And so this is, you're on the inside, I'm on the outside. I will represent the company as much as I can, but I can't be in the weeds, right? You guys are there, you talk to the clients every day. And then, so it's like Amazon, right? Their principle is customer obsession. So we definitely, that was the first step for us because really getting to know your client is top priority in marketing. Basically, you can't have a successful marketing campaign or sales campaign if you don't know your clients very well, their pains, their the solutions that they need, and anticipating their needs. So you have to really talk to them and know them. Number two needle mover is was building a really good affiliate program. I'm a really guerrilla marketing person, and this is not. I say we grew from 0 to 7 figures without spending anything on ads. Not because we don't want to do ads. We actually tried to ad spend thousands of dollars on ads. For some reason, I couldn't make it work. I didn't do it myself, obviously. I hired people who were successful in it. Somehow I wasn't successful. So I was just like, let me try something else. And so I'm happy to pay for a lead or a client. And so I built, of course, step one, our current clients, we told them that we would love to be introduced to other amazing clients like you. It helps us grow our business and also increase the level of service. And then we paid $500 to $1,000 for intro, and we made it easy for them. We told them, send the email, just send the email to introduce us, and we'll do everything. So that is another conversation altogether, like how to develop a really effective affiliate program. So the clients, and then the other is industry partners. And so industry partners are people who have a very good reputation in the industry. We basically partnered up with them. We gave them trials on what it's like to work with us, and we also offer them discounts if they work with us. And so because we love if they would really try our service.
Mhm.
And yeah, we paid like $500 to $1,000 for intro. And then after 10 introductions or referrals, we promote or upgrade them to a JV partner, joint venture partner, where they get 10% of the revenue forever, lifetime. And
Wow.
so our minimum subscription is almost $1,000 a month. So that would get them one intro would get them $100 a month as long as the contract is active. Yeah.
Wow.
Minimum.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. What do you think your biggest lesson was from getting this business off the ground and up to the point that it is now?
The thing that really pops out in my mind right now is that there is no bigger business asset than a good reputation.
Mm,
So I've had financial problems in my business. Too much attrition, not enough sales, but was negative. But I'm very proud to say I would rather go on debt on my credit card to refund an unhappy client so that we get the safe ride. Of course, I will not allow myself to be abused, and I do my best to follow everything on the contract. But we are very proud to say that in our 7 years of operations as a business, you will never find any bad review about me as the owner or a leader or a person or the business. So
yeah.
we don't have a lot of five-star reviews out there because we're not that aggressive asking our clients to do it for us. We do that, but we always say we've grown our business because of our name and our reputation. So how the investment comes in is conferences. We sponsor conferences, provide booths at conferences and conferences. I get invited to speak. So that's where kind of the next thing is for us in terms of investment for growth. But again, all of these are also hinged on a good reputation. So personal brand, yes. Business brand, yes. But I think having a good reputation is a very unmatched asset in business.
Yeah, I think you can't overrate that. And I would say what I heard from that a little bit was, ev- excuse me, every business is a people business at the bottom.
Mm, yeah, so true. Because also, you don't know the future, right? If there was anything that the pandemic taught us, you don't know the future. You
Mhm.
could be doing a super big pivot in the future, right? And so the only thing you're really taking with you from one era to another is your reputation and your name. And
And it transferred.
and it
Like,
transfers, exactly. I bet you if I start a storage unit business tomorrow, or a vending machine business, or a car wash with a mani-pedi, which is my dream, by the way, it's open for investment.
love
Actually,
that.
you can start that business together. Car
I was
wash
gonna
and
say,
mani-pedi, for real.
we should do that. Yeah.
Um,
many pennies while you wait for whatever. It should be
what?
like a mechanic, car wash. Yeah.
But I want it to be girly. It's like car wash and then at least like put massage chairs
Yeah.
and then like coffee and fast Wi-Fi and then like mani pedi.
Yeah. No, I love that, and we should definitely cater to, like, scooters as well, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of women, there's so many women here, and yeah, they have cars, they
Yeah.
get
And so I bet if I start any of those businesses, I will not have any problems getting my first few clients because I have a good reputation and I think at this point I already know how to sell. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
really
I
heard the
love doing
common
that.
thread through
Yeah.
everything you said, not even just your big lesson, but, you talked about, like, how to get to know your customers. I'm sorry,
Mm.
how to know what they need. So, sorry, tail end of a cold. Okay, so let's get practical.
Mhm.
People are listening. They either have considered outsourcing, but maybe they have concerns. Maybe it's a new concept for them. What are the most common concerns? Are they legitimate? How do people mitigate those?
Yeah. So I think the first thing about considering outsourcing or considering to hire an outsourcing company is you need to look at what you have in terms of systems and processes. And then if you are not very good at this, I would start with listing down the tasks that you need out of your plate. Look at those tasks. Sometimes those tasks cannot be done by one person, or it's not reasonable to expect that from one person. So you can classify that as well. And then you start building the SOPs and kind of the if then statements. I always tell them you have to have these if then statements because you will never teach your outsourced professional, your RP, to be independent unless you have this. And they need to be independent thinkers too, not just independent doers. And that would be step one. Now, if you are not confident with what you have, my advice is always go with an outsourcing company, even if it's not us. Just for the industry, I would say go with an outsourcing company who can give you advice and most of all, who has context on culture. So, I would say the top five countries to outsource, like Philippines, India. I think Bulgaria is also growing, or South Africa. So that side of the world is also growing. And of course, Latin America, right? So a lot of
Massive.
people as well. But, the cost of living is almost getting close to United States. And so people go for those other options now. But yeah, go with a company that can really deliver context on the culture. So I'll give you an example. The Philippines is a country with 7,000 islands. When you say outsource to the Philippines, your success could really hinge on where their city is. So the capital is Manila, but Manila has very high cost of living. I'm not kidding. When I was living in Manila, my cost of living was the same as when I was living in Vegas. So
Wow.
exactly, my rent was the same, food was the same. And then because of this mindset of I'm in the Philippines, I think I even spent more because I thought things are cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to hire from cities that are not in Manila, in my opinion, but are still big urban metropolis. It's still a big urban metropolis. Why? Because you can't deal with power outages. Some cities in the Philippines still have power outages. Very few, but some of them. You don't want to deal with that. Next is internet connection. You need to hire from these big cities that are not Manila so that it's modern enough and they have good internet connection and good backup. Usually the backup is tethering from your phone, right? And so they need to, if a big city has a lot of like signal cell towers, then they can provide that service. The last consideration is the city calamity prone. And what kind of calamities?
Yeah.
Is it a typhoon, a storm, a tsunami, an earthquake? So different cities in the Philippines have different kinds of calamities. I come from Davao City where we have magnitude 5 to magnitude 6 earthquakes, and it's normal for us. It's scary for most people, but it's normal for us. Most of our buildings are also built to
For it.
sustain that. Yeah. So we have minimal flooding, but and then earthquakes. So some cities, they have typhoons, tsunamis, really big storms that literally could ruin your VA's like roof or something, or they
Mhm.
wouldn't have power for 3 days.
I was gonna say
And then,
knock out the infrastructure for days or weeks.
yeah, and then that would be a problem. Yeah.
That's such a good point.
Yeah. So knowing these nuances would be another
Mhm.
benefit of going with an outsourcing company. And the last consideration is how much involvement do you want to do in terms of HR, right? So we have some clients who have grown and they have grown into a point where they hire their own HR team. So that's great. That's awesome. But it's also a wanting thing. Do you want to do that? Right? If you don't want to
Mhm.
do that, if you're happy to do that, you're such a people person, you love planning these things, that's awesome. Then you can do this yourself, or you can hire a freelancer and then cross your fingers that they won't leave you for the next gig. But if that is a concern for you and you want to invest in the growth of your team, and of course, the protection, meaning health insurance, things like that, I would say go with an outsourcing company.
Interesting. Okay. What are some of the common mistakes and points where people get tripped up when a company starts outsourcing?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. I would say the top mistake is mismatch expectation. People, when they start with outsourcing, they think, um, I need these tasks done and I can do this myself. I
Yeah.
just need to find someone who can also do it all. But yeah, they would probably have a business because they're like you, right? So we need to be reasonable in terms of expectations, in terms of expertise, and in terms of what is really the role. Um,
Mhm.
yes, you can find a project manager who's also amazing at Canva, or a graphic designer who's also a decent copywriter. But in the with all honesty, it's very hard to expect that from one person. So that is really the first mistake. The other day, I had a client who sent me a job description. It's his third hire, and he said, "I want to hire what do you? I want to hire a VA slash Canva designer slash Excel writer." I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This
Yours
person would
too.
okay, yeah. She would design Canva stuff and she would write about Microsoft Excel. I'm like, are we hiring the Power Rangers here? Like the whole team? So I had to walk him back home and tell him, I think we can find a good VA that has a design eye, but we need a different like person to do the writing. Yeah. So that's the first mistake, expecting too much from one person, mismatch expectations. And then number two mistake would be not knowing how to onboard. This is really where people trip up because some people are such, especially founders who are salespeople. Like you, Alex, I think you're a very good salesperson. You're a pretty decent salesperson. You're great at operations, but I think you're also a pretty persuasive person. I
Mhm.
don't know, maybe because you have a dog. Just kidding. You have to persuade them.
That's why bringing the
Follow your
dog.
orders. Yeah.
Dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm
Thank
just kidding.
you.
But some people, especially salesperson type founders and owners, they're very good at reading people. And so they actually do well in the interviews and in finding these people. But where they trip up is they don't know how to onboard. They haven't organized the documents, how to give access, how to give feedback, how to have an ongoing feedback loop. Um, what is my leader? Do I know my leadership style and my management style? And am I able to communicate that to the person? So it's really heartbreaking sometimes when I see a boss and a freelancer, and I would say on paper they're perfect for each other, but it doesn't work out because they don't know how to onboard each other
Mhm.
well. When you are dating someone, you go to multiple dates because you can't just onboard in one go. You can't move in after the third date. You have to like slowly do the onboarding process. And then yeah, so um onboarding is what we do all day. We have a team. our client success team that does it. We have served so many industries and we have made the mistakes in the past. So I would say that's another thing that people make mistakes on when they're trying to do it by themselves. And the last thing that people usually make mistakes on is that they don't know how to continuously motivate their RP. Any job, guys, any job without growth eventually becomes not fulfilling.
Mm,
Really. Even if you're cooking, right, Alex? If you're cooking the same dish and if
yeah.
you don't feel the desire to try like something else, oh, you know what? Instead of cheddar, what if I try mozzarella for this recipe? Like
Right.
having that sense of wonder and growth is a very deep human desire, and we should not forget that. Yeah.
Curiosity
Even
is one of our
exactly,
biggest intrinsic motivators. Yeah.
exactly. And this is where it's for most people, it's really not the money. And the people who are only there for the money will leave you for a better gig. So it is a different type of person, the people that we hire. They go for stability. They go for a good boss that doesn't stress them out. They also go for a system that is done for them. Like for our virtual assistants, they don't want to help their boss how to onboard them. They want to be onboarded properly. They don't want to figure that out for them, you know, even if they're an assistant or a virtual assistant. And to be honest, guys, so many Filipinos are happy being assistants for 10 years. I personally know people who have been VAs for over 10 years and they're happy being assistant because they grow as a person. They get to know new software platforms. Sometimes they're sometimes their boss sends them to conferences too. They have no desire to become a manager, a boss, a COO. They love being there because their growth can come from other places. And
Yeah. There's so much latitude within that role, right?
absolutely,
I
yeah,
think also what I will say if you're listening here, like assistant, virtual assistant, executive assistant, personal assistant, like those are all actually different roles. And
yeah,
they come,
yeah,
I worked in like FTSE 100 companies when I was a consultant. And I remember one of the organizations, it was like a household name, the CEO would have an executive assistant. That person was the CEO's right-hand person, and they were actually being groomed to be ready to be a CEO in one of the company's
wow,
other
yeah,
organizations. So it was like a weird title, but
yeah,
that was their role, right? And if you see it in like movies too, right? Like
yeah,
executive assistant, like the Pepper Potts, right?
right,
Like it's really might be more of a chief of staff or like head
right,
of special projects, but it's just like a term. So
yeah.
I think that's an important thing to keep in mind is also be clear on what you're looking for now and where that role might evolve to as you as a business and a leader grow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's also like humans are humans. We look for growth always. We are
Yeah.
not the same person as we are every year, right? And especially now with AI, my VAs were so excited to learn about AI. They were like, oh, an opportunity for growth. They even have used AI in their personal lives now, you know, apologizing to their wife that they make AI write the text or something. And like new recipes, like, oh, one of my VAs was like, oh, I told like ChatGPT, these are my ingredients, make me a good lunch. It was
That's
so cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved what you said about the onboarding and the integration into the team, and that I think sometimes a common mistake that people think is you need a task list, but you're not
Mm.
just outsourcing tasks that you can be like, here's a list, like goodbye, right? Like
Yeah,
there's not a
exactly.
robot, not a computer program. Like it is a person that yes, needs some onboarding, but also the more you onboard them into the team, like you said, the longer they will be there, the more they can grow, but also the more they can contribute. I'm thinking back, I was really fortunate in consulting. I got really used to working from different places, working with different people, working with teams that were not always physically together
Yeah.
really early. I think early-ish in my career, but early in the world's trends. I always say I'm like a late adopter for tech, but for this type of thing, which was much more around people, I was I think fairly early on had that opportunity. And when I worked at KPMG, they actually had a offshore team in India that was within the bigger Indian company, KPMG. They had this team and it was called KGS, and it was for the strategy group. We had this like specific group that we had hired. And the challenge was people weren't using them well, right? And I didn't really know
Yeah.
that. I just got to use them. And I guess my personal brand of how I figured it out ended up being fairly successful. And so I got asked to like actually got asked to potentially go lead that team out in India, but got asked to
Wow.
speak on it and present at it in some of our group conferences. And it was funny because for me, I had to sit down and be like, well, what are the problems people are having and what did I do? Because it wasn't intentional. I didn't have a list or a guide or anything. But I look back and the things I did was I was making sure that we were working around the time zones to have these individuals as much as possible involved in team conversations and team calls. I was really looking at them as like an integral part of whatever work stream they were working on.
Right.
And whenever possible, I would actually have them come to wherever the project was, whether that was in the UK or at a client around the world. I would aim to have them come out for 1 to 2 weeks per every 4 to 6 weeks and spend time in person with us because I was just
Wow.
like, how it's really hard to work on the type of things we're working on conceptually at a distance. They can do
Yeah.
great work, but I remember spending hours on the phone and often at weird hours with them when they couldn't interact with the rest of the team in the way that maybe I would have liked.
Yeah.
And to me, that was just like, this is I obviously cared about their experience, but I was also like, this is how I get what I need from this team. And we're being asked and encouraged to work with this team and staff from this team. So I didn't really think about it. I more just knew what I needed and this is what I needed to get there. But I think now that outsourcing is so much more common or
Right.
offshoring or whatever, remote work in general, honestly, what you're talking about, I think is so important to understand that if you just have tasks, like what you're talking about is more automation. If you have key components that you want done reliably and basically carving off parts of your or others' roles and creating roles around that, that's where the real value is, particularly with technology these days, right? Like a lot of the just automation stuff is like more and more going to be tech, not people.
Exactly.
So I think it's amazing that we're talking about this and that you guys offer this and that people can understand like, oh, I don't have to figure this out. It's great to have the guidance. And if you are going to go do it or you're already doing it, great.
Yeah.
But if you're just starting to think about it, again, invest in expertise, right? Invest in whether it's proximity or another organization, someone who has figured it out and who is basically there to ensure your success in this new endeavor. I think that just makes so much sense and is very much what I speak to, which is core competency. Like figure out what you're great at and do that and don't try and do everything else. Find others who are great at it, right? And the same thing as a company.
Yeah. And I always say that there's so many natural talents that come with founding a company. Founders, CEOs, presidents, owners, whatever you call them. They have so many natural skills. We have the gift of gab, or like you're outgoing, so you're a natural salesperson. You're natural this, natural that. You're a natural leader because
Mm.
you are the eldest child. But one thing that's really never natural is hiring, onboarding,
Mm.
ongoing human resource development. You have to learn these things. You have to do it to learn it. You have to make the mistakes. You have to have done it. You have to have the context. Unless you're an HR professional, it's really hard to call yourself, I'm such a natural HR person,
And HR
especially
is
if you're the
so
founder.
big. It
Yeah.
is big and it is a big drag. It's something like all my clients, we work on elements of HR and professional development and
Yeah.
labor relations. But yeah, it is a big piece. It's tiring. I've been in some of our startups. I was always like, people would joke, they'd be like, HR. And it was like me, right? Like we had HR when we were really small. And it's like a whole nother role. And you have to be a certain way in that role that isn't always the way you're going to be in the rest of your role. And so, yeah, it can be a huge drain. And if you don't do it, it can be a huge risk. So I think,
Exactly.
yeah. So I want to touch on one more thing before we wrap up. You said at one point only decision making should be at the core of each business, and
Yeah.
everything else is outsourceable. I love that.
Yes. Yes.
And outsourcing is as close as you can get to passive income if you do it right. So,
Yeah.
what can you really outsource? How do you make this state? What are the pillars of this statement?
Yeah. No, I love that. In the past, if you think about how people run companies, traditional big businesses, they have a C suite, CEO, COO, CFO, whatever. Now we have fractional CEOs, even fractional COOs, fractional CFOs. And as you can see, even the top positions are now outsourceable. And of course, under that, everything is really outsourceable. Virtual assistant, project manager, client success manager, designer. So the world is your oyster, basically, in terms of hiring. I don't care if you outsource to Ireland, if that's your preference, or you outsource to Australia, but outsourcing your labor market is now the world. So you got more option, right? And all of these roles are outsourceable. The rest of the world you can reach them at your fingertips using the internet. And so in that concept, everything except the main decision making things in your company as the owner can really be outsourceable. My previous business partner told me about that um, kind of principle, and it really made me think a lot. And I thought, what I unconsciously have been doing that in my
Mm.
business in the Philippines. So I have lived outside of the Philippines since 2017. I've had homes in Thailand. I stayed for a few months in Canada at a time. I moved to the States in 2019 and I moved around. And I was able to keep my traditional businesses. So even with these different time zones, the only thing that my team would really make me do is approve money stuff. I told them they can approve even like anything under $200 that makes sense, right? But
Governance is so important
yeah,
in that. Yeah.
everything over that, like you have to ask me. So even if I'm not in the
Mm.
same time zone, they will get an answer within the next business day. So it really didn't hurt our company. And I also was able to give them the option to call me anytime. Even if I'm asleep, if they call me, I know that it's important. So I always pick up
Yes.
the phone. And that doesn't happen not even once a year, very rarely. I only really got those calls like when my sister was delivering her baby.
Right.
And then the other time was like when this $12,000 check, when the bank needed to talk to me to encash it. That's really it. That's like less than 5 times in the past 10 years, I would say. So building that trust, building those systems, you are still one of those people who have hesitation towards the idea of outsourcing. Just think about those principles and you will realize how little you actually have to do on your business, in your business, if you really plan to just make it as passive as possible or to only do the things that you actually enjoy. I really still enjoy copywriting. I still write all of our copy, but I get to choose to do that because I have an operations manager that runs everything. When I got married in September 2023, I didn't work for a month, not at all. They even kicked me out of our company Slack, which was funny.
I love that.
My business didn't burn. So it's possible, guys. Possible.
Yeah.
Many people have done it.
I'm preempting people's thoughts, I think, here when I say growth is a challenging time in business. And it's often a lot of things are changing or chaotic or they get shaken up and the way we're doing things changes. So often leaders feel the need to maybe close ranks or keep things really close in times like this. So, how can people outsource for growth or revenue optimization? How do you, again, get beyond the outsourcing of tasks and have it be more growth focused and team?
Yeah. As with the simplest principle of outsourcing is that you have things that you're doing that is repeatable and you documented it. And you know that if you do it every day, you'll have growth in your company. So, for example, I'll give 2 examples. So, there's a little bit of wiggle room for people's imagination. If I got my clients through cold email, as the founder, I would cold email right? So say I have a working script, amazing results, I have great risk reversal. I cold email 50 people a day. I have to do it every day by myself. I have to customize it, personalize it to get the higher chance of a response. And then I have to do it every day. And it's so tasking. It will probably take me a full 8 hours because I have to space the emails because I'm doing this manually, right? And then the people that I cold emailed yesterday, or maybe the other day, or maybe last week, I would also reply to the replies, right? That also takes time.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I do this every day, I get new clients. That is an outsourceable task because you know what you need to do to get the result that you want. And so that is outsourcing for growth. Another super favorite thing of mine is client success. Client success management is super big right now. In fact, I was just at this conference in Toronto and literally every talk there went back to customer loyalty, client success, client satisfaction, customer delight, all of those things. And if you outsource client success, if you have someone in your company that takes care of your clients, what their needs are, they are the most potent person or advocate to upsell your client, to ask for endorsements, right? That is a very good outsourcing for growth activity as well. And there's a lot of bonuses there too. Better relationship with your clients. You get direct feedback, which you can use for product or service innovation. I love that's one of our favorite things to outsource because our clients they grow and it's inevitable. So they love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Karla, thank you so much. I feel like we've just done a masterclass in outsourcing. We have a few fun wrap up questions right at the end. They're just like rapid fire. There's 4 of them. You can pass.
Yay. Okay.
Let's do those. Chance for people to get to know you outside of the business chat.
I'm nervous. Okay.
What is an experience that changed your life?
Oh, definitely losing my parents early. Losing both of my
Mm.
parents in my 20s. Yeah.
Wow. Mm, okay. What does strategy mean to you?
Strategy is a continuous way of thinking if we can do things better. I don't know if that's the correct
Nice.
answer.
I like that though. No, I like it. What is a book that you've read that changed your perspective on something?
Oh, wow. There's this book called The Denial of Death, and it's a philosophical book. I recommend it to a lot of people. And it goes through the human experience of mortality and how we think of mortality. And yeah, it's a very good, it gave me a lot to think about. It's a more philosophical book. When I picked that book up, I was just pretending to be philosophical and smart. And then, and then it's a really good book. It's one of the Prince books that I still keep everywhere I go.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, the last one. If you could go to any concert tomorrow, touring or not, dead or alive, what would it be?
Girl, I just got goosebumps. I just got goosebumps. I would love to go to oh my gosh, I have 2 people in mind, but probably a
We'll
gun
give
to
you
my
2.
head. 2, I'd definitely go to a John Mayer concert again. I think he's one of the best songwriters and guitar players in the world, and I would love that. And the other person is Sarah Bareilles. I think she's super underrated as an artist and a
Okay.
songwriter. Yeah, and she has a very powerful voice. So she doesn't do big concerts, so it's so hard for me to catch her. She only does like semi big shows. Yeah, more intimate shows and only in the US. I rarely find time to catch her or something or a place.
All right. Karla, thank you so much. To everyone listening, if they want to find you or connect with you or find out more, where can they reach you?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn, Karla Stefan Singson, and I also post a lot of memes that your parents probably shouldn't see on Instagram at Karla
Accurate.
Stefan. Yeah, at Karla
Stories are
Stefan
always
if you want some deranged humor in your life.
awesome. Karla, thank you for the time. Thank you for sticking with us. And I can't wait to do this again sometime.
I know, me too. Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. I had fun.
Amazing.
Thanks for tuning in. Our goal is to create connections and inspire conversations about building great companies. So please subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast with your network. Sharing is caring. If you're a business leader or executive team ready to take your leadership and company to the next level with high-performing teams, we'd love to see how we can rocket fuel your growth. Check out the show notes to book your free Builders Business Booster call, where you'll receive a strategic leadership assessment and 3 concrete focus areas to mature and grow your business. You'll also find the link to join the Builders Club to stay up to date on upcoming events, get valuable tools and insights, as well as be the first to receive exciting announcements straight to your inbox. No spam, I promise. You'll also find my website, alexsnyder.com, and all the places to peep my creds, hear what clients have to say, and see if I went to the gym today. And one final note, this podcast is not intended to be legal, tax, or other professional advice. Thanks for joining. We'll catch you on the flip side.